Welcome to the webinar being hosted by International Solar Alliance and New Energy and Industrial Technology Development Organization, NEDO, on operational use of solar mini-grid business model in Uttar Pradesh, India. Ladies and gentlemen, NEDO and ISA have jointly developed a case study on the solar mini-grid project, which is located in Uttar Pradesh, India, to fill the policy and knowledge gaps in solar mini-grids adoption and encourage other countries to examine the applicability and replicability of innovative business models to accelerate the path of economic development. OMC Power has implemented this project. Before I invite Mr. Litting to welcome the guests, I would like to inform the participants that interpretation facility in French and Spanish language is provided during the webinar. You can select the channel for language of your choice from the options on your screen. The webinar will be live streamed on ISA social media handles. The session recording and the presentations made during the session will be available on ISA website and YouTube channel soon after the webinar is over for future reference. We request you to kindly put your mics on mute while the discussion is in progress. With this, may I now request Mr. Sean Litting, Program Specialist, Solar Mini Grid, International Solar Alliance, to present the welcome address. Over to you, Mr. Litting.
Thank you very much, Megha ji. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the participants, depending on where you are on the globe. At the outset, I would like to welcome the honorable dignitaries and excellencies from ISA member countries, respected speakers for the session, my fellow ISA colleagues and participants from across the globe. Today, we are gathering here to participate in the ISA NEDO webinar on operational use of solar mini-grid business model in Uttar Pradesh, India. We are delighted to have in our midst today His Excellency Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General of ISA, who has consented to grace the occasion. We are also delighted to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Ai Gonda, Councillor Deputy Head of Economic Section, Embassy of Japan. Madam, your presence today gives us motivation in our quest for scaling solar among our member countries. We would like to welcome Mr. Yoshiro Kaku, Chief Representative and Country Head, NEDO Delhi Office. ISA has found a good partner in NEDO. We are really thankful to NEDO for their partnership. We are sure that our partnership with NEDO will benefit a lot of people in accelerating the access to energy in the coming days. We welcome Mr. Vikas Agarwal, Director of Uttar Pradesh Electric Regulatory Commission. Thank you, sir, for taking your time off from your busy schedule. For the benefit of the audience, UPRC is the first in the country to have a mini-grid policy. The fruit is there for all to see. There are now many private companies operating in Uttar Pradesh in mini-grid space. We are also delighted to welcome Mr. Bhavani Singh Kangarod IAS, Director of Uttar Pradesh New and Renewable Energy Development Agency, UPNEDA. UPNEDA has been at the forefront of implementation of solar energy projects, including solar mini-grid and solar rooftop in Uttar Pradesh, India. We welcome Mr. Rohit Chandra, CEO of OMC Power. OMC Power is a dynamic mini-grid operator in India. We are thankful to OMC Power for the opportunity given to us to visit the solar mini-grid project near Lucknow in Uttar Pradesh in the month of December 2021. This webinar today is a continuation of that engagement in terms of dissemination of information and learnings. We also welcome Mr. Paripan Pudvitia, sorry for my pronunciation, Director of Power and Climate Initiative, Rockefeller Foundation, for having consented to give a presentation on social impact assessment of solar mini-grid in Uttar Pradesh. We welcome Dr. A.M. Siddiq, Representative NEDO, who have been a great help to ISA in organizing this webinar. Last but not the least, we welcome all the participants to the webinar and hope you will benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Litting. May I now request His Excellency Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, to please present the opening remarks. Over to you, Dr. Mathur.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Megha. Colleagues, Ms. Gondo, Kaku-san and Siddiqui-san from NEDO, Mr. Agarwal from UPERC, Mr. Singh from UPNEDA, my dear friend Rohit from OMC Power, all my colleagues and participants from around the world, welcome. I am absolutely delighted to welcome you all to this virtual event on a very, very important topic, that of operationalizing mini grids in a manner that meets the needs of local people while being sustainable as well, and sustainable in an environmental term, in a social term, and most importantly, in economic and financial terms as well. On this platform today, we have all the stakeholders who contribute towards making solar mini grids effective and efficient. We have been delighted, as Shonli said, to work with NADO to create a case study. And the case study we chose was of OMC Power in Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh has been a state of India which has been proactive in putting out a mini grid policy in 2016, due to which now various companies have put out a range of mini grid plants. I think OMC Power itself has put in something like 300 plants and want to go to reach a goal of 1,000, if I'm not wrong, by September 2023. With this webinar, we want to disseminate the findings of the case study. We hope that this will provide the kind of policy and knowledge gaps that are essential for the large-scale replication. I particularly want to recognize the Rockefeller Foundation, and I'm delighted that Parifan is here with us, for their leadership in seeing that this was an area in which seed capital was required and enabling mini grids to grow and scale up. We see that mini grids are necessary the world over. You know, even today, something like 500 million people, 600 million if I'm not wrong, remain without access to electricity. Now, if this is the case, clearly, as you look at the supply of reliable electricity, we are looking at this being provided in a manner that can be provided anywhere. And solar today is the most cost-effective solution. Yes, in most geographies, even where connections occur, solar is the cheapest form of electricity, but only when the sun is shining. But in places where the grid does not occur, it is the cheapest form of electricity together with storage, even when the sun is not shining. We need to ensure that through mini grids, we are able to provide electricity across the world to the very many people who either don't have electricity or don't have reliable electricity. Now, the vast number of solar grids that are there in the world, I think 50% of the grids are solar, and another 13, 14, 15% have some amount of solar in the mini grid installed capacity that exists. But there is a huge potential. There's a potential in many of the island states. There's potential in many of the least developed countries, particularly on the African continent. And what we are seeing is that for mini grids to thrive, we need a conducive policy environment, apart from an entrepreneurial bent which goes towards the creation of mini grids. I think what is important is that mini grids are seen as startups. This is one of the things that we have learned, that when the entrepreneurs work as startups in environments where a policy exists, you have success. And I think this environment together helps in both success and replication as we go ahead. It also provides affordable power to the people who need it. I think that at the end of the day is where success lies, because all of us ultimately want to make sure that people get electricity, they get it reliably and and at prices that they are willing and able to pay, in chunks that they are willing and able to play. Now, through this webinar, we at ISA and our partners at NADO want to deliberate on reproducibility and replicability, with the goal that we are able to push mini grids across the globe, particularly in areas where access to electricity is a challenge. We at ISA have a specific program on solar grids. It's called as our program number 3. And you heard Shonli, who leads this program. And we hope that with this program, with the learnings that we have, we are able to take the case study that we have prepared to each one of you to see how it can be reproduced and scaled up. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mathur. With this, I request Ms. I. Gonda, Counselor Deputy Head of Economic Section, Embassy of Japan in India, and Mr. Yoshiro Kaku, Chief Representative and Country Head, NIDO, and Director General, International Solar Alliance, to please launch the case study on operational use of ABC model solar mini grids in Uttar Pradesh, India.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should not have flashed it beforehand.
That's fine, sir.
Kaku-san, Gondo-san, here we are.
Here we are. Congratulations.
I'm proud and delighted to work with you on this.
Yes, we are very honored to be able to work with you. Congratulations.
Similarly.
Congratulations, Mathur-san.
Thank you, Excellencies. Thank you very much. May I now request Ms. I. Gonda, Counselor, Deputy Head of Economic Section, to please present the opening remarks. Madam, the floor is yours, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Mathur, Mr. Kaku, Mr. Litting, honorable guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to be able to speak here and to be invited here to today's very, very important webinar. My name is Ai Gonda. I am working for the Embassy of Japan in Delhi as Deputy Head of the Section for Economy and Development. Today, I have the honor to speak here in place of my boss, Minister Miyamoto, who has regrettably an urgent appointment today, and I'm lucky to be here today. Japan highly appreciates ISA's recent active involvement in international frameworks, such as pursuit of participation as an observer in the UN General Assembly and involvement in COP26. The ISA's efforts to promote the transition to clean energy are in line with the Japanese government's policy, and Japan also places great importance on cooperation with the ISA. As part of our recent cooperation with ISA, Minister Miyamoto and other officials from the embassy participated in the opening ceremony of OMC-powered solar power generation facility in Sidauli in December last year. And this webinar is co-hosted by ISA and NEDO. I am very, very delighted that it proves that cooperation between Japan and ISA is steadily progressing. Japan declared its goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. India has also declared its goal to be carbon neutral by 2070. In order to achieve these goals, close cooperation between Japan and ISA is essential. So Japan will continue to lead the way in solar energy utilization through technology and innovation. We would like to contribute to global carbon zero effort by sharing our knowledge and experience with ISA member countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And may I now request Mr. Yoshiro Kaku, Chief Representative and Country Head, NIDO Delhi Office, to please present their remarks, please. Over to you, Kaku-san.
Good evening, good afternoon, Mega-san, Mathur-san, and Gondo-san. and Rohit-san, many people, many attendees from this webinar. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Ushio Kaku from NEDO New Delhi office. I'm very honored to be here at such a great event. NEDO is one of the largest R&D organization in Japan, under the administrative control of Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, Government of Japan. NEDO has undertaken many activities in India and other countries, including model projects, R&Ds, and other related tasks. All NEDO projects are technology-oriented projects and create some kind of opportunity in India and the world, which is beneficial for both countries. As for energy demonstration project, NEDO has promoted solar-related projects in India as well, such as mega solar project in industrial park in Rajasthan state, and the green hospital project utilizing solar power in Delhi. Keeping in view the above mandate, I'm quite happy to inform NEDO India has started collaboration with ISA since last year. Today's case study and webinar is the very first result of this collaboration. Also, for the first topic for our collaboration, we have conducted a study with OBC Powers, the operational use of solar mini-grid business model in Uttar Pradesh, one of the largest states in India. In December of last year, as Gonda-san mentioned, as part of this case study, I participated in the opening ceremony of OMC Power's new site in the small village in Uttar Pradesh state, with Dr. Mathur and many other members from ISA and the Minister, Mr. Miyamoto, from the Embassy of Japan. There, I realized that only a single light bulb can bring about significant changes to people in the village with regard to how to live and how to work. At the same time, I felt how important it is to enable them with electricity to do whatever they had given up on after the sun goes down every day. I have visited some villages, not only in India, but also in Ghana, Tanzania, in Africa, and the Middle East, the Southeast Asia, Latin America. I am very confident that the efforts by the OMC Power will bring exactly light to the world. I am very hopeful the outcome of today's webinar will be fruitful and helpful for all the participants attending from all over the world. I'd like to end my remarks here. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Kaku-san. Very kind of you. May I now request Director UPERC, Mr. Vikas Agrawal, to please present his special remarks.
I am honored to be invited by NEDO and ISA. And thank you all for their invitation and giving me such an opportunity to share my views on the issue. Mini-grids, why there is a requirement of mini-grids? Mini-grids are required to the places where grid electricity is difficult because of the terrain, economic reasons to extend the electricity, or having no reliable and low quality power. Mini-grids provide reliable and quality power 24/7 to that location. In UP, we have 4 players: OMC Power, Husk, Tata, and Tara Urja. But only OMC Power has been able to keep their targets and been able to put up 270 mini-grids in 19 districts of Uttar Pradesh. And they are nearly generating 26 megawatt hour of energy per day. So the model what OMC is operating is reproducible and replicable. I want to share some of the direct contact with some small business houses in the locations where OMC Power has set up his plants. When we were drafting this regulation, I went to the site where OMC Power has placed this plant, It is in district Hardoi. At the initial stages, there was no commercial establishment in that village. But after a few months, when I went there, I found nearly 50 or more commercial establishments have come up around the road in that village. When I interacted with some of the small shopkeepers, when there is grid electricity as well as OMC power, why you have not taken grid electricity and instead you have gone for OMC power? The reply was very unique and you will find it interesting. He said that it was a barber shop. He was requiring electricity with a small electric shaver, which used to haircut the people with some special haircuts. So he said, when I take electricity from grid, it costs me something around 500 rupees, whereas I take from OMC, they don't charge any fixed charges from me. They only charge the electricity I use, even though it is costing high in terms of electricity from the grid. But they have not to pay any minimum charges, which they have to pay to grid connection. So the cost of the OMC power comes nearly around 12 rupees. So when he was only using electric shaver, that time he was using electricity, and any other time he was not using. So the total bill of his consumption was even towards to OMC power was not more than 150. So he was saving in terms of money, as well as he had the reliable power which was available to him whenever he required the customer. When customer used to come, he needs electricity to cut his hair, it was there. Similarly, one more example I want to share with you. I had interaction with a small shop which was having a deep freezer for keeping the cold drinks and juices cold. So he said, when I get the electricity connection from grid, whenever I required in the noon, it was not available. So most of the customers which wanted cold juices or cold drinks, that was I was unable to supply. When I changed to OMC power, the electricity is available to me. So the things are cold and I can sell them whenever the customer comes to me. So this is some of the examples which make the power, reliable power, very important to the person who needs its usage. As ABC format is for anchor load, small businesses and community. For survival of the mini grid, the necessity of anchor load is also very, very prime. Because most of the investment or the recurring expenditure comes from the anchor loads. Because they are big consumers, their payment is prompt and everything needs. Now the small businesses, we talk of any business which is requiring electricity. So because of the availability of power, they can use it like small tools by the carpenters, by small tools for any other shop. So this thing, reliability makes most important issue there, which OMC power is able to provide. I talked to one gentleman who was having a gas station there, I mean to say petrol pump. He was earlier a consumer of UP Power Corporation and he switched over to OMC power. When I asked him that why you have switched over, he said, my total consumption is low, but I have to pay high to the discom, whereas I have to pay low. I asked him, is there any snaps in power or anything when you don't have power? He told me that in last 3 years, there is only one instance because of the storm that my wire was snapped and I was not having electricity for 2 to 3 hours. Otherwise, in last 3 years, I am having 24/7 supply from OMC power. This shows the reliability of the mini grids. And when we talk of its reproducibility, the economics of the anchor load is required. Otherwise, the small business will automatically come in the vicinity of that area where the power is available. Because the requirement of operating the small tools is availability of power is there. So that becomes an important issue. I think so. With this, I close my issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Thank you for a comprehensive overview and for giving examples from real life scenarios about how mini-grid interventions has impacted the real lives and helped them not only save money, but also get reliable power. I'm sure participants will benefit from this particular model. May I now request Mr. Bhavani Singh Khangarot, UP NEDA, to make a presentation. Mr. Khangarot, the floor is yours, please. I request Mr. Bhavani Singh Khangarot to please take the floor. Rajendra, I hope Mr. Khangarot has joined.
Yes, he's here. I think he is getting connected. Bhavani Singh ji, chala.
Hello.
Sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, our director, Mr. Bhavani Singh, is busy in another meeting in the government. And so he delegated this presentation to me. I am Atul Shankar Srivastava from UP NEDA. Hello.
Hello, sir, please carry on, sir. We can hear you.
Srivastava, Senior Project Officer, UP NEDA. I will be presenting our PPT.
Sure, sir.
As you all know, the UP government has initiated the mini-grid solar system first time in India in 2016. And OMC was there. OMC used to install a private solar mini-grid power plant, and UP NEDA was supported to OMC as far as the MNRE subsidy was there. In that time, UP NEDA launched a policy to promote mini-grid solar power plants in Uttar Pradesh. Many villages which were remote and don't have access to electricity. So we used to provide, OMC wanted to provide electricity to that those remote villages, and the UP government has initiated this task with OMC and launched a policy, mini-grid policy 2016. And I'll be sharing some salient features of that policy. Let's start that. Presentation is visible. Hello.
Ashok ji, चले चलते हैं.
I was just explaining the policy. The salient feature of this policy, actually, there is some technical problem in the presentation. The salient feature of the policy was it was applicable to the areas unelectrified. The policy was for areas unelectrified. Full screen. The slide is visible. Hello?
Please carry on.
Yes. As you see in the slide, the requirement of policies was that mini grid are the missing link between grid supply and a standalone renewable energy system. The policy and regulatory framework available that time was which support grid extension, and that there was no policy framework available in the mini grid in 2016. The salient feature of that our policy launched in 2016 was that it was applicable to the unelectrified or grid connected area, but the grid area should have less than 6 hours access of electricity. Or the policy was valid for only 10 years. It was launched in 16 and valid for 2026. And mini grid was the maximum capacity of mini grid should be 500 kilowatt. Only up to that kilowatt project was allowed. There can be two categories of implementation in the policy. One with VGF from state government, and other is without VGF, self-financed by the private investor. With the support of VGF, there is 30% VGF available of the project cost, and that would be borne by the state government. And the village will be selected by the government in the VGF form. On the basis of whom build, own, operate, and maintain the mini grid will be installed. And there is a provision of reverse bidding on the VGF. In the case of VGF, there are some restrictions also. Land to be procured arranged by the developer only. Mandatory supply to at least 75% of household, at least 3 hours during the day and 5 hours at the night. Total 8 hours minimum supply should be there in if you install VGF-based mini grid power plant. Commercial demand should be met at least 50% of the total supply. And surplus supply can be fed to the other villages also. In this, some restriction was there in the tariff. Household connection 50 watt load must be given, minimum 50 watt, and not more than 60 rupees per month can be charged from the household. Up to 100 watt, maximum 120 rupees can be charged from the household. More than 100 watt at mutual consent. If you are giving more than 100 watt load, there is that you have mutual consent between developer and consumer. In other form, if you are not taking VGF from the state government, you can install mini grid anywhere, any place, whether it is electrified or not. And the main features is that there is no restriction of supply of electricity. You can supply 3 hours, 8, 4 hours, 6 hours, or 24 hours. Tariff will be on mutual consideration. Facilitation by the government as per the Infrastructure and Industrial Development Policy 2012. The provision in that policy will be applicable if some developer is installing without VGF mini-grid plant. Exemption from the taxes as applicable on the day. The implementation duration is 6 months for solar, and another biomass or biogas is 9 months. Although there is no potential of wind plant in Uttar Pradesh, and in the policy it is mentioned 1 year. There is single window clearances also. There is a high level committee is constituted under chairmanship of Chief Secretary. Self-identified project by developer with no subsidy. Subsidy shall be available for the self-identified project by the developer. Developer shall self-arrange the land and finance for the installation of mini-grid plant. Electricity tariff, developer will be free to charge tariff from consumers on their mutual consent. The without subsidy project shall also get the benefit of the incentive provided in the industrial policy related to other infrastructure, help and benefit of evacuation of power process in the state of access. This is the list of government-owned mini-grid plant in Uttar Pradesh. There are 16 mini-grid plants. The capacity is given, capacity and district in this slide. And there are 270 mini-grid plants have been installed by the private developer. All the plants have been installed by OMC. So this is the small presentation of UP NEDA as far as mini-grid is concerned. We have also installed 28 mini-grid plants in the DDG scheme in remote villages of Bahraich, Lakhimpur, Sonbhadra, and Lalitpur, Hamirpur. In the government-owned project, we have a provision of 5-year mandatory maintenance of the firm which have installed this mini-grid or DDG plant. And now the 5-year plan time have been passed, and we are thinking to give these mini-grid or DDG plants to the private owner developer who can maintain it on the revenue-based model. We are preparing this revenue-based model, and soon will be launched this scheme. And that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Srivastav. Thank you for apprising all the guests with various policy interventions that are done at the state and federal level by Government of India, and how the policy environment has evolved over a period of time, leading to successful projects. Thank you for your time. May I now request Mr. Mohit Chandra from OMC Power to make a presentation for implementation of solar mini grids in Uttar Pradesh. Over to Mr. Chandra, please.
Yeah, thank you, Megha. I think they need to stop sharing the screen. Mr. Bhavani Singh needs to stop sharing the screen so that I can share my screen.
Ashok, आपका screen, yeah, there you are.
It's all sorted. So, firstly, a big thank you to ISA and NADO for inviting us to give this presentation today, and a big thank you also for inaugurating one of OMC's power plants in December, where we had a chance to host a large delegation from ISA and NADO. Also, a very big thank you for to the UP government and the UP Electricity Regulatory Commission, who have actually been really the torch bearers of this whole initiative. Today a lot of people are talking about it, but way back in 2016, there was very little talk about it, and very few companies willing to stick their neck out, and very few governments other than the UP government at that time who were kind of willing to work very comprehensively to come out with a policy and regulation, quite early in the day. So a big thanks to everybody. With this, I'll just start to share my screen. Just give me a second. Can you see the presentation now? Is it visible?
Not yet.
Okay. Just 1 second. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Great. So what we are, out there to do is really, we started as a mini grid player, but I would say that we are now becoming a company which is championing more the cause of, integrated rural development. If you look a little bit about us as a company, we are, a company which is empowering rural communities for a socially, economically and environmentally better living by building an inclusive and sustainable business model through generation, storage and distribution of renewable energy with a consumer first mindset. So, over the years, a short history is that the company was formed in 2011. Our first power plant was inaugurated in July 2012. And currently we are serving the needs of about 100,000 consumers with 270 plants which are spread over 22 districts of UP and Bihar. We generate in a day 26 megawatt hours of electricity. We have a similar storage capacity. The grid that we have installed is about 490 kilometers long, and there are now 1,000 plants, under construction, and we want to be at 1,000 plants by the end of the next calendar year. If you look at the, little bit an image of how the plants are distributed, you can see them all over the place, and these are small nuggets, and we've kind of followed an approach of clustering and making sure that the plants are physically contiguous so that operational efficiencies can be achieved while we are kind of deploying the plants. And of course, UP has been a state which we have preferred because of the fact that the government of UP and the Electricity Regulatory Commission were, I think, most innovative. They were the first to come out with stable regulations, which are important for private investment to be kind of diverted towards a particular state. So we decided quite early that we're going to spend considerable time in UP and make sure that we build scale in UP before we venture to many other states in India. So we are right now on our way to build 1,000 plants in UP, and you can see that we are quite geographically dispersed, and close to 300 plants are already in operation in Uttar Pradesh. If you look at our model, I am describing it pictorially here, easy to understand. You can see a power plant in the center, and we have a distributed energy infrastructure with each plant having its own generation, its own storage, its own distribution network. The distribution network is a smart grid. Storage is typically maintenance-free, fast charge, lead acid batteries, and generation is solar. We've also started to deploy a bit of micro wind now in Uttar Pradesh. We have sites which have a 6 kilowatt micro wind. The idea that we have is that in 3 years from now, OMC needs to be 100% free of any form of fossil fuel. And we're building a model, I think Dr. Mathur alluded a bit on it, that which is financially sustainable. of course, environmentally positively contributing and financially sustainable. And it's a model of integrated rural development, because like we know that, mobile telephony or telephony is directly, proportional to the GDP growth of a country. Roads are, so is electricity and availability of reliable electricity. So we believe that we are, a catalyst for a kind of very sustained model of rural development. So you have anchor loads, which are telecom towers, visible on this slide. You have small and medium enterprises, colleges, banks, shops, etc., petrol pumps, and you have households who are beneficiaries of such a model. We call it the ABC model. And the ABC model is a model of sustained rural development, because, while this is a good business, we've always made it as a for-profit company, because, bulk of the deployment that we've done is from private capital, be it on the equity side or on the debt side. And the byproducts of what we do are social enhancements, economic development, and of course, environmental benefits. On the social side, I think a lot has been spoken, but health, education, financial inclusion, women's safety are some very key takeaways from this. And my dear friend Parifan is going to speak after me and cover a lot of these things that they have observed and measured over a period of time. Sustainable economic development for local entrepreneurs and enterprises is and use of electricity for productivity purposes. So initially they use electricity, which is kind of a replacement of fossil fuel. After that, they climb the energy ladder based on economic development of the village. And this has been a very catalytic facility for economic development of villages. While the country is going to be carbon neutral, like you said, by 2070, but the villages in which we start to operate are all turning into positive environmentally from day one that this arrives in the village, because a lot of fossil fuel used by small medium enterprises, homes, telecom towers is completely eliminated with the advent of a mini grid in the village. On the ABC model, like I said before, A stands for the anchor, which is telecom. They provide you a long-term PPA, typically 10 years or more. There are stable cash flows which come from this PPA, and you have a large consumer consuming electricity from you during the non-grid hours, typically could vary between 10 to 14 hours depending upon the location. So it provides stability to the business. It provides comfort to equity investors and lenders that there is one off-taker with sustained consumption and predictable cash flows. The small and medium enterprises become the second segment. These are shops. They use electricity to generate income. They look at electricity cost to them on the basis of return of investment. That means if they spend 200, 300 rupees on OMC, would they earn 3,000 rupees a month with that kind of small investment? And they take business decisions based on that. And for them, the most important thing is that they get electricity when they need it, because depending upon the nature of their business, their needs differ, and they need electricity when. So the biggest thing for them is to get electricity when they need it. Households typically need electricity during peak hours, and peak hours are in the evening. So generally from 5:30 p.m. till about 11:30 p.m. at night is when most of the household consumption is. And I think, like our friend from NIDO mentioned, it is sometimes difficult for us who live in cities to comprehend what difference an electricity bulb of 7 watt can make to the lives of villagers in rural Uttar Pradesh or other rural territories. The ABC model, as we've gone along in our learnings, we have developed different variants of the ABC model. There's a basic ABC model, Then we have something which we call the evolved ABC model. Then we have what we call the B and C model, which is a model where only community and small and medium enterprises are served. And then we have a model which only serves anchor loads. So we have different variants of the ABC model, and they're kind of time shifted. So some sites would start with the anchor load and then get the B and C. Some would start as a B and C, then later get the anchor load. And some would start as ABC, and some would start as full-blown, evolved ABC sites with not just electricity, but other things which are kind of triggered with electricity. For instance, clean drinking water, cold storages, EV charging, and many things which are, coming, using electricity as a kind of very basic raw material in those businesses. Now, a little bit back to the point that Dr. Mathur mentioned, that we believe that the model that we have developed is a sustainable business model. And why I say this, there are about 5 points that I want to dwell upon. When we talk of sustainability, the most important, of course, is financial sustainability, which means that, okay, if it is a grant-supported model or a subsidy-supported model, it's very difficult for it to scale. So it has to be a self-standing model, which basically means that the model must be able to generate financial returns for investors, and it should be able to pay back debt to lenders. For that, we need long-term PPAs, which OMC has with leading tower companies in India. It needs to have predictable cash flow. That means not just a PPA. You must be able to deliver on the PPA. You must be able to get paid from your customers on time. And each unit of yours that you deploy, that means each power plant on standalone basis must be profitable. That is important. So we believe that good PPAs, ability to deliver operationally and collecting money, and unit level profitability are important parts of financial stability. Then the second part of a sustainable business model is what we call sachet pricing for community. We know that the community, rural community, has a certain ability to pay. You need to make sure that your offerings can fit the size of their wallet. So it's kind of a reverse engineering where you have to see that, okay, they can only afford, for instance, $2 a month for their energy budget. And you need to make sure that you have a package which can fit within $2 a month. If somebody's requirement are different, then you need a package which can fit the size of their wallet. So affordable prepaid packages, customized offerings for different segments is the need of the hour. And that ensures that you are attractive to the community. Sometimes for people who live in large cities, we believe that when we think or talk about the village, we believe that it's kind of one segment. But we learned it the hard way that the village follows its own segmentation. There are people in the villages who need everything that you and I need and can afford it as well. And then there are people in the village who cannot even afford $2 a month for electricity. So sachet pricing, customized offering is something which is part of the sustainability. Then, of course, third thing which we believe is part of a sustainable business model in rural landscapes is a low-cost operating model. So as a company, OMC strives to live this motto every passing day, which basically means that everything that we do will be with a kind of low-cost operating model mindset, which doesn't mean that we shy away from investments, but we do shy away from cost. And so optimizing plant designs over a period of time, bringing digitization, automation, a lot of in-house software development, our own IPs, etc., in products, developing smart grids, developing our own energy meter, developing great outdoor solutions which are ruggedized for such landscapes and low cost in terms of both initial capital expenditure and operating expenditure, all put together. Business process automation, all put together, is something that we call the low cost operating model. And we believe that over the last few years, this is the one thing that we do well. And for any company to succeed in this space, this is very, very important. Then, of course, the fourth thing that I would say is talk about is good governance. We are lucky that we've been able to attract great investors in the company, but it was not an accident. I must say that our ability to attract large investors, very good quality lenders, is because the company, it's been our motto from day one that we will be a very compliance focused company. Make sure that we are well governed. We have governance standards which are even comparable to what large companies would follow. The focus of the company was ESG from day one. Or we hear everybody talking about ESG these days, but we live ESG every day of our life. So we believe that these have been some attributes which have attracted good investors towards OMC and have kept them with us, because even after becoming our investors, they have seen that these things we mean very seriously, and we live these things every day. Then, of course, like I said in the early part of my presentation, supportive regulation, government regulations, policies which encourage private capital, which encourage companies like us. And I think UP has been a role model in this, where we are operating, Tatas are operating, Hus Power are operating, and a couple of more companies are operating. So the sustained regulatory support is very important for private capital to kind of flow in. A bit about our differentiators. Why do we think we are different from other mini grid operators? In fact, this is an actual site picture where we have deployed solar and micro wind. This is from one of our plants in UP called Raghavpur. So our differentiators, which we believe we have kind of gathered together over a period of time, is firstly, like I said, business process automation. This is a different business. It's not like building one large power plant. You got hundreds of power plants dispersed over a tough terrain. So you need to have stable business processes. We've gone one step forward. We've not only got stable business processes, we've automated them. We've converted them into codes. We've got apps running on smartphones, which are people use, be it the O&M business process, rollout process, sales process, whichever process. We've got automated tools which work with which people work, so that there's consistency in service delivery across our plants. The second part of our differentiator is that our model is inclusive. We work with the telecom tower in the village, which is a B2B relationship, and we work with the poorest man in the village who can't even afford $2 a month for electricity. So we make sure that we have something on offer for everybody, and our model is completely inclusive. So for every segment of the society, we have something to offer. Very proud to lead a very passionate team for whom this is more than a job. And there are people in OMC who have done 7 years, 8 years with the company with high level of stickiness. Our management team is very passionate and they live this mission every day and want to make it better and bigger. The fourth point I would say is that over the years, we've hardened our distribution network, ruggedized it for rural environment, and made sure that it is a smart grid. Remote provisioning, remote configuration of customers, remote monitoring systems for the grid have all been done. It's well suited for our business model now. The infrastructure over the years has been ruggedized for tough environmental conditions. Temperatures go up to 50 degrees. Outdoor equipments are required for low operating conditions, etc. And all that has been developed over a period of time, and the infrastructure is low cost in terms of upfront deployment and ruggedized in nature. And then, of course, we all know that no business is successful until you are able to meet your customer demands. The service levels we have from telecom operators are very stringent. They require almost 100% availability. The service levels that we offer to our community customers, be it small and medium enterprises or households, are also maintained at the same levels. So there are literally no outages other than on very tough environmental conditions where a pole would be knocked off because of a storm or something like that. And we have local teams available at all our plants to quickly react, quickly respond to the needs of our customers. Moving forward a little bit from being a mini grid company or born as a mini grid company, we are now pivoting to becoming a full-blown rural utility player, which basically means that we are developing new partnerships with different companies and bringing in drinking water, EV charging. We believe that each of our power plants will potentially become an EV charging station in the future. We are also bringing a lot of initiatives in the field of telemedicine, cold chains, where we've deployed cold storages either closer to the farms, where farmers can store their high yield crops and not sell it in desperation, or at the point closer to the mandis, where they can, where they go to sell the crops. And eventually we are trying to integrate with the rural agri ecosystem, in fact, in different kind of phases. So we are pivoting to become what I call a rural utility player, starting from being a mini grid player, in the country. This partnership, I'm very proud to say, is an excellent example of a greatly functioning Indo-Japanese partnership, where we are very proud of our association and partnership with Mitsui. They've been with us now for 5 years, and they've helped us harden the business model and make it sustainable. We are also very delighted that this is the 70th anniversary of the Japan-India, friendly relationships, and this business case and this study is being presented, at this very great occasion. This Indo-Japanese partnership that we've developed with Mitsui, we plan to take it also to Africa and Asia. So in that context, introduction by ISA to other ISA member countries across the world is something very, very great. It'll help us, kind of take all the learnings that we've had from here, both for us and Mitsui, and successfully deploy them in Africa. So with this, I would like to thank everybody for the time allotted to me. Very happy to take any questions later if time would permit. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chandra. Thank you very much for taking us through the journey of OMC Power and explaining the work being done and about the customized offerings by OMC Power for people from different stratas. We wish OMC Power the very best in all its future initiatives under your able leadership. With this, we move on to the next segment. May I now request Mr. Parifan Uavithya from Rockefeller Foundation to make a presentation on social impact assessment of solar mini grids in Uttar Pradesh. Over to Mr. Parifan, please.
Good evening, and Dr. Mato, thank you very much for inviting me to join this important event today. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Rockefeller Foundation and the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, a new organization that was recently established and launched at COP26 last year by the Rockefeller Foundation and a group of like-minded philanthropic organizations, development financial institutions, and development partners. Building on the decade of the Rockefeller Foundation's work on energy in India, the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet will deliver transformational programs that will accelerate and scale an equitable energy transition in developing countries around the world, including India. Next slide, please. What you see on this slide is that as an organization, we do have 3 impact goals, and they are stated on this slide, ranging from avoiding the aversion of the 4 billion metric tons of greenhouse gas emission, extending access to at least 1 billion people by 2030, and importantly, also increasing new green jobs that are created by deployment of renewables, as well as induced jobs. The type of projects that we associate with listed on the slide in the middle column, focusing on fossil fuel transitioning, and that's about working with utilities through innovative financial mechanisms to retire coal-fired power plants early and schedule and support the just transition for the fossil fuel. And similarly, on grid-based renewables, making sure that through the distributed renewable energy generation and storage to help diversify the mix of electric utilities. And lastly, relevant to this conversation today, it's about supporting a distributed renewable energy solution or mini grids like the one we saw and presented by Rohit Chandra, as well as other rooftop solutions that are provide reliable power to underserved communities in developing countries. As this is a foundation and the work that needs to be done to really accelerate distributed renewable energy mini grids, this work cannot be done alone. And as many speakers have laid out today, we saw certainly an important partner of the government, and UP has really truly demonstrated being one of the first champion in promoting enabling regulatory environment for mini grid deployment in UP, and has inspired many others around the world. Three important partners that we also saw as coming together to make this type of projects like OMC possible are investment partners. And we have lined up about $9 billion of capital with some of the names that you saw on the slide. And to really execute the programs, we have brought together world-class international and local organizations, including the International Solar Alliance, to bring forward the best high-quality technical assistance to support the development of mini grids and the other type of energy projects around the world. As I mentioned, we're also backed by IKEA Foundation and Base Sources Fund, and together with a $1.5 billion of capital, we'll aim to achieve the goals outlined on this slide. Next slide, please. Just to lay the context of our work before I jump into the impacts remarks. Our work in India began 10 years ago, and I met Rohit, has been 6-7 years ago now, Rohit, and had the pleasure of visiting OMC's first mini grid site back in the early days. Fast forward today, we're in 3 states. We're supporting 14 power companies, including OMC, Power, Melinda, TPRMG, which is a subsidiary of Tata Power, and they own collectively about 513 mini grids. We're actually saw 3 new mini grids now in Nagaland, in the northeastern part of India. We're very excited to see that development. And what you'll see here is that together, these mini grids have impacted more than 500,000 people and 30,000 enterprises. So it's not the mini grid that only serve residential needs, but more importantly, the commercial needs of rural SMEs. The success of a commercially viable and scalable model of mini grid in UP is definitely well known throughout Asia and Africa. Next slide, please. Over the past decade, I had the opportunity to travel to many villages to observe changes in communities where mini grids were built. That's been difficult in the last 2 years. But what we saw, and my observation, is that the impact of mini grids on rural livelihood has been transformative. This is one of the 2 slides that will focus on impact, but I decided to present at the high level some of the impacts on carbons. So what we saw immediately, at least, and I would say this is a minimum numbers of 22,000 tons of carbon has been avoided per year. And this number will continue to grow as we drive the deployment of mini grids with OMC, but together with other power companies in the market to reach 10,000 mini grids in India over the next 7 to 8 years. We saw benefit on women and children, great reduction in fire accidents and extension of study time in the evening for children. What was surprising, and was mentioned briefly earlier, was the introduction of drinking water. We saw in a short period of time, a deployment of 42 water treatment units, and these are water purification systems, which have been installed in communities connected to mini grids and selling clean and purified drinking water to rural households and shops and restaurants. And this is a commercially viable model on its own for operating these water treatment units, and that continues to scale and support thousands and thousands of people. The last slide that I have put here is the impact of the findings of impact assessment that we've done recently. Picture on the left, you'll see Saira Begum, who is a female entrepreneur from a village in Uttar Pradesh. She opened a tailor shop not long ago and decided to buy electricity from a mini grid company because it provides reliable electricity. And let me say that again, because the reason she decided to buy power from a mini grid company, because it provides very reliable electricity. She's confident in taking it and setting up her business. She received a loan from a power company to buy new tailoring machines, electric sewing machines. Months gone by, she has purchased 5 more. So in total now she has 6 electric sewing machines, and the business has been doing well. She plans to invest in more units, and during the interview she said that the women must be financially independent. And just a couple of days we celebrate International Women's Day, so I thought it was totally appropriate to highlight this. Quantitatively, and I think that's what you're excited to hear about. Last year, we contracted an independent monitoring and evaluation firm called ID Insight. And many of you may have worked with them in the past or have done or been part of this research project with this company, which is a global M&E firm. They conducted a baseline survey for us and essentially assessed the impact of electricity provided by mini grid on communities. The survey was conducted across 1,700 customers in 26 districts in Bihar and UP between last December and January this year. So right, at the peak or after the during post pandemic crisis, COVID crisis in India. We set out to find actually who are the customers of mini grids. Mini grid companies serving only well-off customer in villages was one of the questions, like who are the customers? What we found was quite impressive. We found that 45% of the household customers who are connected to mini grids are holding a BPL card or below poverty line card, which is a card that sort of indicate their social economic status, and the proportion is higher than population a proportion of 40%. So in short, it's the customers that are connected to mini grids are not only serving the well-off, but in fact inclusive of different type of customers, even those who are have a lower economic status. In terms of impact on people, we found that 89% of households reported improvement in quality of life after connecting to mini grids. And this is no surprise, but it's very interesting to see that the customers of household are saying that it's increased ease of completing household tasks, less time to complete tasks, and importantly, greater level of leisure time. We, as I think city people, may not appreciate that, but the fact that many households can have more leisure time they need, it's important aspects of quality of life. Our goal here is to spur economic development in rural villages through the deployment of mini grids. So we also set out to ask, what is the impact of mini grids on small businesses? We found that 67% of businesses reported an increase in profits Why? Respondents were saying that businesses are able to access reliable electricity and operate much longer hours. Customer service has improved and driving more sales of products and services. And it's important to note that the cost of mini-grid electricity is cheaper than alternatives being diesel, let alone sort of less hassle in operating the diesel genset. What is really interesting in this is that despite the economic hardship caused by pandemic crisis, still about 7% of customers have purchased a new electric devices to expand their businesses and add it to their economic activities. Example of these are printers, refrigerators, computers, fans, and televisions, and others. In closing, it's evident that the impact of mini-grids on community is transformative. We need to make sure that economic and social impacts on communities is sustainable and even grow over time. For this, it's important to ensure that the business model is sustainable, and we seek to partner with key actors to continue to provide catalytic support to power companies that seek to provide reliable electricity, high quality customer service, and deploy them at scale. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to join the webinar today, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parifan, for sharing the impact figures on solar mini-grids and for sharing top-line findings from the survey. I'm sure the positive impacts of mini-grids on businesses is really a positive scenario and a very promising one for this particular solar applications. With that, we open the floor for question and answers. I would request you to raise your hands, please, so that we can invite you for the questions. Mr. Dharma Rao. Mr. Dharma Rao, would you like to ask any question? Your hand is raised, please. Mr. Dharma Rao, you are on mute. Would you like to ask a question from any of the panelists, please? Sure. I think the hand is just like that there, and there is no question indeed. Moving forward, I would now like to invite Mr. A.M. Siddiqui, Dr. A.M. Siddiqui, Representative NIDO, to please present the closing remarks. Mr. Siddiqui, the floor is yours, please.
Hi. Good afternoon. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, everybody present in this webinar. Myself, A.M. Siddiqui, representative at the NIDO New Delhi office. We are organizing this webinar in a very special year because this year is an important year between India and Japan partnership, as we are celebrating the 70th year of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Japan. Today we had quite fruitful, interactive and informative session on this pertinent topic concerning operational use of solar mini-grid business model in Uttar Pradesh, one of the largest states in India, and possible collaboration with Japan and India in this field. We have discussed from the regulatory perspective, policy initiatives and case study and social impact. At the outset, let me offer our sincere appreciation to the eminent panel of speakers who have given insights about such an important topic. I guess it was quite interesting and touched many aspects of operational use of solar mini-grid business model, which is being pursued in Uttar Pradesh. I also thank the delegate, participants, and audience for their participation by joining this webinar. Let me especially thank our esteemed speakers Dr. Ajay Mathur, Director General, International Solar Alliance, for collaborating with NIDO in this study. Mr. Sean Lee Litting from International Solar Alliance for his thought-provoking ideas. Ms. Gonda, Counselor, Embassy of Japan, India, for her valuable remarks. Mr. Vikas Agarwal, Director UPRC, for his kind support of the study and guidance, keeping in view the regulatory framework in the state and comprehensive overview. Mr. Bhavani Singh Khanga wrote, I'm sorry that he could not join from UP NEDA, but I'm thankful to him for deputing Mr. Srivastava to deliver his address. Mr. Rohit Chandra from OMC Power for highlighting the concept of the study, and Mr. Parihan from Rockefeller Foundation for sharing his thought and for giving the social impact. And last but not the least, Mr. Kaku, the Chief Representative of New Delhi office, for his untiring support for the study. I thank all the speakers for their insight and taking time out of their busy schedule and made themselves available during this important webinar. Let me also thank Ms. Megha Pushpendra for moderating the session. I would be failing in my duties if I do not thank colleagues from OMC Power, Yamada Sangh and his team members, ISA team, which includes Mr. Amit Kaushik, Mr. Ramesh, Mr. Sudhanshu Mishra, for their wonderful cooperation in organizing this event successfully. Once again, I thank one and all. Please take care of yourself and stay safe. Thank you very much. We have a presence in social media, and NIDO New Delhi office has its website, which has been posted in the chat box. Please visit our website for future programs. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Siddiqui. With this, we conclude the webinar. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. どうもありがとうございました。
ありがとうございました。